Hey y'all, happy Tuesday. So we're just going to give people just a few minutes to um come into the room. While people are coming into the room, I do want to go ahead and thank my patrons so much for supporting my content. Thank you to my VIP patrons. If you would like to become a member of my Patreon, the link is in my description box below, along with the link for these really dope hoodies, unicorns, fairy dust, and AR-15s type of girl. If you would like to grab one of those are also below in my description box. Make sure you guys let me know as you are coming into the room, and we are going to get started in just a few minutes here. And let's make sure. Oops. What the world? All right, y'all. So, last week I made a video about the fact that, and some of you probably already caught that video. If you haven't, make sure that you go check that out. Hey, King BJ. Make sure that you go check that video out. It is a video where I talked about how the George Floyd Act has now basically collapsed in Congress. Hey Rod, thank you. Rod said, Rhonda, I'm new to your channel. Thank you for your commentary. Thank you so much. So in this video, I talked about how the George Floyd Act basically collapsed in Congress. If you've not seen that video, make sure you go ahead and check it out, because I kind of give you the synopsis of what was going on with that bill. Now, I did want to talk about this in a little bit of a longer and just casual format, y'all, because honestly, it's been bothering my spirit a little bit. And so I wanted to talk about it. Hey, Edward. I wanted to talk about it a little bit more and tell you guys some of the thoughts that were on my mind behind this. So to just briefly catch you up, if you haven't seen that video, is that during the campaign trail and all last year, 2020, there was a very polarizing, politicized, riots, protests, very involved year. Okay. It was absolutely a lot going on. Many of us were, enthralled by the news media, because it was just overwhelming. It was really overwhelming. Um, Tensions and racial tensions were very high last year. And a lot of that has now, at least as what's being portrayed by both mainstream media and social media, in some ways has subsided, particularly if we're kind of comparing this year to last year. Now, after the protests, a lot of people during the campaign season use the name of George Floyd, use the momentum of the riots and the protesting and the Black Lives Matter to ride off into the sunsets during their campaigns, right into political office. Okay. Now, the same people who got into office on the backs of George Floyd not only have been completely silent about the lapsing of this bill, but it's been done so very quietly, okay? Extremely quietly. So much so, this happened last week. The news broke last week. You don't see many people talking about it, okay? I'm probably one of the few people that you've actually seen address this. Not only did it happen very quietly, last week I noticed in the media that you had this story of this random white college kid on campus, and a story goes viral about a freaking sticker on his computer. Goes viral. It's shared. You have these different platforms sharing it. You have these different urban media sites sharing it, these different agencies sharing it. Okay, this story has gone super viral about this random white college kid and his freaking sticker on his computer, and not the actual bill that was supposed to. And I say supposed to because y'all know in earlier talks we've talked about even some of my problems with the bill and stuff like that. All right, but let's just go on the assumption of what it was supposed to be and how it was presented to us to be. Okay, this random kid goes viral, and the collapsing of this bill is not only done quietly but doesn't go viral. So the main thing that we couldn't get away from last year, no matter how hard you tried, everywhere you turned, okay, you had everybody using this man's name, politicians, entertainers to get their brownie points. You had people using this man's name to sell products, okay, to sell plush toys, replicas of George Floyd. Some very creepy stuff was going on. You had these demonstrations of politicians kneeling in kente cloth. And as the bill collapses, absolutely nothing. It's zip silent. And so for me, I find this very I find it very frustrating, because not only did so many of us warn that this would happen, okay? Not only that, but the fact that it really shows, it really highlights, it really exposes how fake um some of these people are, and how willing they are to ride on the waves of actual people, actual human beings, um actual movements, right? For their own political gain. Not only that, all of the people who decided to, hey, I'm going to take to the streets, I'm going to protest, I want to be a part of this action, this activism, and now nothing. So now that Joe Biden has ascended to presidential office, now that a Democrat has ascended to presidential office, is silence. I have to say that I do not believe that during the Trump era, this would have even been possible. If this had happened while Trump was in office, they would have used every single opportunity to call this racism, to talk about how this was white supremacy, to talk about how, they don't want to solve this problem, or the tension between police and the citizenry. And it's like Biden continues to get so many passes, okay? People turn a blind eye to so much that they would not have when BLM, mainstream media, and CNN were putting a freaking battery in their back like the Energizer Bunny just last year. And this is why I'm so adamant about people actually knowing what they stand for, actually knowing what they want to see, actually knowing what they believe in, actually having their own agenda, because obviously it's not working with somebody else. Particularly, it seems to be white liberals always giving you yours. That hasn't seemed to work. It doesn't seem to work. And this shifting with the wind, and one year we care and the next we don't, and it depends on who's in office, if we talk about this or if we don't. It's just very fake. It's extremely fake, and it's sickening. I want to say it's disappointing. I want to believe it's disappointing. Um, but at this point, I don't put anything past these people. And if you continue to allow people to get away with treating you a certain way, I mean, now if we're just looking at the situation in totality, not only has there been uh, more funding of police, um, even this bill in some sorts, the George Floyd bill, if you actually take a look at it, was funding of police, right? But the problem is that the constant lies and the mismatched narrative, and this, even a little bit like when politicians tell you exactly who they are and this trying to make them be something different. Like Joe Biden in particular has a long history of things that he said about Haiti, the crime bill. It recently came out that now they want to send Haitians to Guantanamo Bay, and it recently came out in this administration, they were considering criminalizing tobacco products and all of these other things. And it's like, even as it relates to vaccine passports, and we see the demographics that are least likely to be vaccinated, and when you start putting these things together, and it's like, I guess, like, now, I'm not supposed to say these things. I'm not supposed to be critical of them because now they're this year, that's so last year. Like, who cares about that? We're on to the next thing. That's old news. That's history. Even this idea, right? Like, even as we look at the vaccination passport. So let's say we're looking at New York, which we're going to talk about a little bit more here in a minute, right? But vaccination passports, even the idea that a group of people promoting, pushing, supporting vaccination passports wouldn't be in alignment with more police unions, or wanting to stay in alignment with police unions, I should say, needing more muscle to actually enforce mandates, is erroneous. They keep selling us these policies that tell us, oh, we're going to make you safe. We're going to protect you. We're going to end white supremacy. And the whole time, all of these things take more manpower, which is translation, more police, more police, more policing to make these things happen. But then come election year, they'll use the death of someone and ride the waves of that person, like, oh, we're just going to come in and we're just going to change the world and make everything better for you. And this is going to happen. And oh, it's going to be so great. And we're going to build back better. And the whole time, now it was tax the rich, but now you about to be looking at the poor. Okay, the middle class. You making over $600. You're sending money on PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. I hate to break it to you. I don't think Jeff Bezos is, using Cash App. If I had to guess, there's probably a everyday man's game. So in so many ways, the things that we were told, we are seeing the direct opposite. And not only are we seeing the direct opposite, they won't even come to you. They won't even make it known. They either won't report it, or they definitely won't support the algorithms that make it plain that, hey, we lied a little bit. We didn't really, you thought we really cared about that? Like Kamala Harris says, it was a debate. It was a debate. I'll just say anything to win a debate. You didn't know that? It's like the lack of, I don't know if it's a lack of consistent like principles, or is it, or if it's the fact that so many people just cannot utter, they just cannot admit, I broke my nail in the gym. They can just not admit, like, dang, like they lied to us. You know what I mean? They lied to us. They switched up. It has to be silence. You got to pretend like what's not happening right in front of our eyes is not happening. And just because everybody else decided to switch off, stop talking about these things, trying to ignore them, feel better about their guilt for their vote, or whatever the case may be, however you want to spin it. And then it's like, all right, cool. Like, if you want to play the little games of, oh, it's not what we clearly see it is. You want to ignore what's happening right in front of our eyes. You want to ignore that a lot of these situations are being exacerbated. You want to ignore that something just came out saying today that the federal government is literally running out of money. Running out of money after both Republicans and Democrats agreed to exponentially increase the budget for the Pentagon, along with all the other things we see happening. Joe Biden already walked away from his $15 minimum wage, already walked away from the student loan debt relief. And it's cool. If you want to ignore it and pretend like these things are happening, be my guest. But this is not what's going to happen, okay? During the next election, what's not going to happen is you're not going to have people coming over here gaslighting a lot of us that not only have common sense, but are willing to be consistent and objective. That's not happening. That's what's not happening. This gaslighting of trying to bully people, like those days are over. Of trying to bully people into voting for the lesser of two evils. And what I'm looking at now, that's debatable. That's clearly debatable. So do the faking and the flogging on your own time. Don't try to maneuver and reel other people into your BS, your untruthful, non-objective BS. Because some of us are going to call it out no matter what year it is, no matter what day it is, no matter who's in office. And that seems to be you know that seems to be a very limited quality, as far as I can tell. Very limited and very few, and it's actually sad. It's actually sad, and the reason it is sad is that's why these politicians are able to get away with so much, because people can see it happening right in front of their eyes, but they'll excuse it because they don't want to be held accountable for the things that they originally said or the things that they believe. It's so hard to be like, oh well, maybe I was wrong. Even I was just talking to y'all last week, and I said I think the whole George Floyd thing, I think Joe Biden's gonna do it because it would just make sense to keep it in a tuck. Some things that are hidden in there, I think they're a little bit questionable. But the least you could do is the people that you got on camera and said, "Oh, these black people always had my back, and black women saved America." And the least I would think the least you could do is a little bit of pandering on paper, but you got a hashtag and a tweet or two. I was just thinking like that's the least you could do. And nobody can sit here and tell me, nobody, it's not a soul that can sit here and tell me if this hadn't happened last year, that you would have every freaking news source with a call to action telling people to get in the streets right now. If something like this had happened under the Trump administration, you would see so many call to actions. You would see so much protesting right now. But reality, nothing. So when I am consistently telling people you are being used, you are being lied to. It's not because I'm trying to be a negative Nancy. It's not because I'm trying to hurt your feelings. It's not because I don't want the world to get better. Okay, because these are some ridiculous things that people actually accuse me of. It's the fact that I want people to actually pay attention to not only what is being said, but what is being done. And then we could cut out a lot of this filter time on nonsense. Nonsense. And then it will become so much easier to see, oh, that's that thing. That's the thing the media does. They're trying to put a battery in my back. They're trying to make me their attack dog. They're trying to make me their Energizer Bunny again. I see what they're trying to do here. I notice it. But you know what? I'm not going to fall prey to the mainstream media's agenda because their agenda may not be my agenda. Their agenda may not be for me. Their agenda may be completely politicized and exacerbated. Their agenda this year may not be their agenda next year. Like, I'm really, really tired of seeing people be gaslit and used and manipulated. And it's a very relationship that's Stockholm syndrome in character. It's almost impossible to see these people that you've seen as heroes. It's just people. Just people that are out, sometimes the worst of people, that are more willing to lie and manipulate to try to get ahead. I'm not saying this because I hate you or I'm mad at you. I'm saying this because I actually care about you more than them. That's just me. That's just me. And the unfortunate part about it is they've tried to do the opposite. They've tried to make you love them, support them, revere them while hating your neighbor, while hating the person that you actually are more likely to have more in common with. But now everything has to be political. Everything has to be polarized. And even some of the stuff that should just be straight common sense. There's no reason in the world COVID should have ever came political at all. At all. Even to this day, they are trying to maintain the lie that anti-vaxxers and the anti-hesitancy people are Trumpers. Yet, you have a huge campaign to vaccinate hesitant Black people that we know came out based on percentages and voted for Joe Biden in record numbers. So why keep lying? Why keep lying? Why keep trying to make something political that was never supposed to be? It's a reason for that. It's a reason for that. These people talk out of both sides of their mouths. And if you would pay attention to it, and not only pay attention to it, but accept it, it would be much easier to see. There's no way you can say that all of the vaccine hesitant people are Trumpers. Oh, these Trumpers. And then turn around, and it's very much known from the freaking concerts to the Vax That Thing Up by Juvenile, okay, to the town halls, to all of the money that has been put into urban areas, and even places like working with different celebrities, influencers, churches, and barbershops. All of that money and that stock going into the Black community, somebody's not telling the truth here. Which one is it? Because if that was the case, all of your campaigning seems like it should have went towards the Trumpers. But when I point out these very just simple, common sense things, just common sense, it's problematic. And so I started going into New York a little bit here, but I think for some reason, you know, it's one thing to suspect this level of manipulation. It's another thing to not only see it play out right in front of your eyes, but also see how the world around you is responding to it. And it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. And if Black people do not put on their thinking caps, if they do not approach most of these people with healthy skepticism, you're going to see this happen again and again and again and again. And one important thing that kind of resonated with me differently here recently is the quote that says something about, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? And it makes so much sense to me as it relates to a lot that we see going on with from the lockdowns to even this. It makes sense why the news will pick something up and drop it, right? Like a hot pocket. They will try to make us forget certain narratives. They will try to plant things into our psyches and then, toss it out. Things that they made you feel like were the most important, absolute thing in that moment. Next year, it'll be like it was old year's fashion trend. And so on some levels, and I hope this makes sense to you guys, what I'm trying to say. On some levels, even though I did see some problems with the bill, I definitely don't think, it was a perfect bill. But hey, when's the last perfect bill that okay passed Congress anyway? So let's start there. But even though I've had some problems with the bill and I've expressed it to you guys, it's just the disrespect and a slap in the face for me to allow this to happen under a blue, no matter who, because you have to remember, Congress, the presidency, it's all blue, right? And not only that, but to try to do this so quietly, do this on the hush, not have people that would have been loud, very loud last year, now be silent. It's the level of audacity that just makes me like, wow, man. Wow. And it's like it makes me think about like a battered woman, right? They say a battered woman goes back to her partner X amount of times before finally having the strength to walk away, right? And one conversation that I've had with my brother is when it comes to like a random battered woman, if this is not something that you are willing to possibly lose your life for, you need to reconsider before interjecting, because with battered women, it's this it's this connection in this relationship that they are not ready to end until they decide that they are ready to end. And that's when, and hopefully when it happens, before that person escalates that, or ends their life. And you could see a better person and want so much better for them, and it's like it's killing you in the inside, and you don't even think that they can fully and holistically see the nature of the relationship that they're in. And it's very hurtful just to have to just keep watching. And that's what I feel like is happening here. I feel like I'm being tortured watching this battered, violent, manipulative relationship, right? And even though you may try to tell her, and you may try to put, it's okay. It's okay to leave. Like, he's lying to you. He's manipulating to you. Things can change for you. Things can look up for you. You could do better. But what more can you do than that? And so, this is a little bit how that feels for me. And so I'm just dealing with the emotions of that. Jupiter said right now, MA state troopers are resigning due to the vax mandates. So less state troopers. LOL. Thank you, Jupiter Ice. Racer X said, these politicians believe in padding their pockets. That's it. We need to end our love affair with any of them and treat them like the hustlers they are. They are not on our side. They are definitely hustlers. That's 100% for sure. Thank you for that super chat. Bruce said, wait until the 76% of young blacks get fired over Biden's vax mandate and unable to get unemployment. That's what we're about to talk about now. It'll have to hit them in their pockets. Thank you, Bruce, for the super chat. But that's a little bit of the emotions that I'm struggling with eternally right now. And I vent and I talk to you guys because I know y'all understand, and I know y'all also see what's going on, and it's very unfortunate. And when that tide will turn, right? When she will decide to stand up for herself, make her demands, walk away, I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. We'll stay tuned. But anyway, let's jump into what's happening in New York. Okay. And this ties a little bit into that because we'd been talking about, you know, these mandates. And usually, when you mandate something, you're going to need that muscle behind it. You're going to need that power behind it. And of course, who do you have behind the manpower? You're going to have the National Guard possibly coming in here to replace workers. So are the people that were up in arms about things being militarized last year gonna have a problem with us literally militarizing our workforce, okay, right in front of our eyes? Not only that, in a lot of ways, reducing working families to being unemployed because of a decision that they're making for their body, their family, on their behalf. You know, it's just some crazy things going on here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this article. This is according to NPR.org. New York may use a National Guard to replace unvaccinated healthcare workers. New York officials are bracing for staffing shortages when a state's healthcare worker vaccination mandates takes effect on Monday, and could be looking to the National Guard as well as medical professionals from other states and countries to help address them. Governor Kathy, I don't know how to say her last name, Hochul, I guess, released a plan on Saturday outlining the steps she could take to increase the workforce in the event that large numbers of hospital and nursing home employees do not meet the state's deadline. We are still in a battle against COVID to protect our loved ones, and we need to fight with every tool at our disposal, she said. That could mean declaring a state of emergency. So don't forget that usually under these state of emergencies, that's when you have these governors go haywire. Okay, they just start thinking they could do anything they want to do. If they want to shut down the liquor store, if they don't want you coming in your local Home Depot to buy seeds, okay, if they want to stop the selling of firearms, these are some of the things that went on last year during the COVID lockdowns and the state of emergencies. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That could mean declaring a state of emergency to allow healthcare professionals licensed outside of New York, as well as recent graduates and retirees, to practice there. Other options, including deploying medical trained National Guard members, partnering with the federal governments to send disaster medical assistance teams to local and health medical systems, and exploring ways to expedite visa requests for medical professionals. So, two things here. The first one is, I'm very interested to know why retirees who would be interested in working under these conditions wouldn't have gotten in the game during when COVID was actually super rampant. We didn't know what was going on. So many politicians were calling for more on hands help, okay, from healthcare workers. What would make this year different to before? I'm not exactly sure. I would imagine it would have to be a heck of a pay increase, okay, to come out of retirement. Not only that, they're absolutely going to replace you, okay, with outside labor. So this is going to help, okay, with, you're going to have more visas going out now. So you're going to see immigrant populations coming over to take jobs. As you have American workers that you just called heroes last year, you're going to discard of them and make them unemployed. This is what's happening. Y'all don't think this is the recipe for some very angry people? Now, keep in mind, we already have during the COVID lockdowns, we had record number of alcoholism and drugs. We had record number of suicides, along with a lot of other things, crime increasing. Okay, so we have to think about these things in totality. It's not just a one thing. These things affect other aspects of the city and the state. The state's labor department has also issued guidance clarifying that workers who are terminated because they refuse to be vaccinated will not be eligible for unemployment insurance. This is how sick these people are. Will not be eligible for unemployment insurance. So something that your employers have paid into, that is rightfully yours, rightfully belongs to you, the state is going to steal from you. After coercing you, they're going to steal from you. This is evil and this is immoral. This is completely immoral. I do not believe that there's anybody that could give me a valid excuse, a valid reason for why this is okay. If this person is being fired, they're being fired, they're being let go from their job, being left to fend from them for themselves, and you're not going to offer them unemployment that's already been paid into. This is absolutely immoral. Absolutely immoral. It's wrong. It's coercion of the highest order. It's wrong. If you don't do what we want, you can't eat. All healthcare workers in New York's hospitals and nursing homes are required to have at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine by Monday, according to state regulations, and a mandate issued by former Governor Andrew Cuomo last month. Staff at other institutions, including home care, hospice, and adult care facilities, must be vaccinated by October 7th. The most recent numbers suggest that the state still has a way to go. As of Wednesday, 84% of all employees were fully vaccinated, and 81% of all staff at adult care facilities and 77% of nursing home facility staff were vaccinated on Thursday, as of Thursday. Healthcare systems statewide and nationally are already struggling with staffing shortages. Healthcare systems statewide and nationally are already struggling with staffing shortages. So you're so scared for people's safety. You're so scared for people's protection. Masks work, right? You can get them suited up. You can get your doctors and nurses suited up and to help just like they were during COVID. But no, we want to exacerbate this problem going right into the fall months, right into when flu season is about to kick up heavy, right until we are still trying to understand and gather information from how these vaccinations are affecting people. And some of them are also ending up in the hospitals. This is an absolute recipe for disaster. These people are creating the problem and then exacerbating the problem. This is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. I got to go Dr. Umar tonight. I got to say it 3 times to make sure y'all get it, because they are literally creating a problem. And the crazy part about it is they're going to turn around and tax us for the problem. But, that's what government does. But let's keep reading this. Critics of the requirement have challenged it through protests and lawsuits. You have a lot of lawsuits coming. Keep your eyes on that. If you are a person that is under threat of losing your job, do not quit. Make them fire you, okay? As North Country Public Radio reports, opposing mandatory vaccination and challenging a lack of religious objections. They've been trying to do away with religious objections in, I believe, New York and California for a while. Particularly, I would say, as it pertains to like the school system. At this point, healthcare workers have the option to apply for a religious exemption until at least October 12th, when a federal judge will consider a legal challenge in favor of such exemptions. As hospitals ready their contingency plans, which for many includes limiting certain procedures Late last week, Hochul held firm to the deadline. She told reporters on Thursday that there are no excuses for workers refusing to get vaccinated and called the impending shortages completely avoidable. No excuses other than I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. I may have underlying health conditions. And then let me ask you this. Are doctors and nurses that have worked on the front lines right with COVID patients, okay? Are those doctors and nurses that deny vaccinations, are they anti-science? How healthcare systems are preparing for the deadline. Hospital systems and nursing homes across the state are encouraging their employees to get vaccinated and preparing for disruptions if they do not. Some are cutting back on elective surgeries. Here we go again with this. Okay, limiting admissions and retaining volunteers. So just as we were somewhat kind of getting our hospitals back to normal, now we're going back to this. Okay, we're going back to basically limiting elective surgeries. As y'all know, even during the original COVID lockdowns, you had a lot of people missing things like their cancer checkups and treatments due to a lot of the restrictions during those lockdowns and the restrictions with the hospitals and what was available. Northwell Health, the state's largest healthcare provider, has been holding meetings with staffers in an effort to persuade thousands of holdouts, the Associated Press. Some 90% of its 74,000 active personnel have been vaccinated as of Thursday, though the hospital said it's not expecting full compliance and has more than 3,000 retirees, students, and volunteers on standby. So you volunteers. Okay. All right. You're going to fire medical professionals to bring in volunteers. Erie County Medical Center Corporation in Buffalo anticipates that roughly 10% of its workforce, some 400 workers, may not get vaccinated by Monday, according to AP, and is prepared to potentially suspend elective inpatient surgeries, reduce hours at outpatient clinics, and temporarily stop accepting ICU transfers. As NPR has reported, Lewis County General Hospital in Louisville, New York said it would pause maternity services starting this weekend because a dozen staff members quit rather than get vaccinated. Ladies, okay, and fellas, I said all last year, you are going to see the services for doulas and midwives and teachers increase. Okay. Now we are at a time where most people don't want to deal with the COVID restriction BS. I got to wear a mask while I'm pushing this baby out. Okay. Most people don't deal with that. They don't want to deal with what they were already telling us before COVID, which was what was going on in some of these maternity rooms. You have places like New York who are now pausing maternity services. If you are a doula or a midwife and you are not getting your money up right now, you need to be getting your money up right now. Okay. The money is out here, money on the table. Get your money. Okay. Having babies, making babies is never going out of business, never going out of service. If you are a teacher for whatever reason that is at home, would like to be at home, you have vaccinations coming up and you do not want to be susceptible to these vaccinations, there are parents out here and families looking for your services. There are parents that want online and or in person homeschool services for their children. If you are not getting your money right now and getting your money up right now, you should be getting your money up right now. Money is on the table, okay? It's here. You just got to see the opportunities and go out and get it. I've been talking about this since COVID started. So, for the people that was paying attention, you should be ripe and ready to go snatch up a bag. And not only even way deeper than a bag, we need y'all. We need you. We need you as members of our community, so we can stop outsourcing all of our services to the state. Some of us are ready for more autonomy. We're ready for more agency. We're ready for personal connection. And you have people that are willing to pay. They will pay you for that personable connection, that personable service. Okay? They will pay. And they're looking for people. So if those are fields that you're in, if you have children that are thinking about going into those fields, or finding alternative ways to do these things, there are very good options out there. So people are looking for your services. Let's keep going. Unvaccinated employees of New York City's 11 public hospitals, which cites a roughly 88% compliance rate, will be put on unpaid leave, but could return to work if they get vaccinated soon. Some hospital systems are seeing an increase in vaccination rates. New York Presbyterian, for example, enacted its own mandate with a deadline of midnight Wednesday and reported that only about 250 of its 48,000 staffers did not comply. It's one particular part that I wanted to read in here. This is it. And I'm going to link this below if y'all want to finish reading it. President Biden announced earlier this month, this is very, very, very important because I always talk about being forward thinking, okay? President Biden announced earlier this month that the 17 million healthcare workers at facilities that receive Medicare or Medicaid funding will have to be vaccinated or regularly tested, with details to be finalized in the weeks ahead. 17 million healthcare workers at facilities that receive Medicare or Medicaid funding will have to be vaccinated or regularly tested, with details to be finalized in the weeks ahead. Now, why I say this is important is because when Medicare and Medicaid is particularly government funded. And when you are working with these government funded programs and these government funded agencies, you are going to have more restrictions and regulations on you. That is something to be very thoughtful and mindful of. Private sector versus public. Not only can Medicare and Medicaid, as somebody that has actually worked in a doctor's office, not only can it be an absolute pain in the butt, okay, with all the paperwork and the hoops you got to jump through and everything you have to do, but I also want you to start thinking in terms of this when you hear people talking about socialized medicine and universal health care. Okay, when it's very much known that you have a lot of politicians who ideally want to push us towards socialized healthcare, universal healthcare, then you can have a president that comes out and says, nah, y'all got to do this because, universal, Medicare, Medicaid, y'all all on it. Everybody's doing it. You have to do this to receive insurance. You have to do this to be seen at the hospital. You have to do this to be a patient here. So it's a lot to think about, and it goes very much deeper than what's on the surface level. So when people say things like, oh, free healthcare, Medicare for all is just what we need, nothing is free. Nothing is free. Those things come with regulations, stipulations, rules. And we must think about these things holistically before just completely accepting and throwing ourselves in the narrative, right? And Joe Biden could very much say, today you have to be vaccinated or tested. But they've changed so much stuff. Stuff blows and changes with the wind. Who's to say that 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90, oh no, we're not doing that no more because of what the CDC said, what the WHO said, is now vaccinated or nothing. If you work at a facility with Medicare or Medicaid, is vaccinated or nothing. If you have Medicare or Medicaid, is vaccinated or nothing. Free is not free. These things come with stipulations. And so, that's something that's to be mindful of. It's something to be mindful of. And I just have to be honest and forthcoming with people about this whole, free Medicare for all, everybody under the same system. And then when you ask certain politicians, oh, well, will I still have an option for my private insurance? And then it's kind of like, yeah. But then when you catch them another time, it's kind of like they're debating it a little bit. And so it's like, which one is it? And I don't know if I could even trust you to get it to that point anyway. These people are just not particularly trustworthy with how everything changes. And so when you hear people say, no, I don't think universal health care would work, I have suspicions about that. Instead of just trying to be so, you just want people to die. Instead of trying to be so repelled by how the media has tried to censor and capture some of these discussions, thinking about them in a more holistic way, seeing some of the possible pros, some of the possible cons, things were being told, things were not being told. Look at other countries where has this worked, has this not worked, the reasons why. Not just the talking points and the hashtags and the little cute factors. So that whole Medicare, Medicaid thing, that's really going to be key. I did content a while ago. This was a couple of months ago, where a person that's literally in a Joe Biden administration was saying that they will possibly go as far, and we haven't seen this happen yet, but it was suggested, even going as far as denying like certain welfare benefits if you do not take the vax. And so based on where we're seeing now in some areas like New York and California, I don't particularly put that past them. It could happen. We don't know as of yet. And it really depends on the type of pushback that they continue to get. And hey, another thing I've noticed is that you have all of this going on in New York. You had these strictest mandates for your workers, your federal workers, your healthcare workers, and your people in your education system, right? You have the strictest mandates as far as getting into restaurants and bars and stuff like that. You see, they ain't brought that stuff down here to the country. I'm just saying, making a connection. I don't know if y'all noticing this too, but New York happens to have some of the strictest gun laws. Are these things correlated? I mean, we can hypothesize, but you see, they haven't brought this down to the South yet. And I think they're testing it. They're testing the waters where they can. They're going to see what type of resistance and pushback that they get, and possibly go from there. They use California and New York almost as like breeding grounds for the most. It's like almost, what's the most authoritative thing that we can introduce, or what's the most like, what can we introduce that we think we can get away with, and then if we get away with it here, we'll try to introduce it to the rest of the world, right? And so we've seen that happening in a couple of ways that we talked about here over the last couple of years. Jupiter Ice said, I never thought in 20 years we will be in a forced notion over a government vax at the whim of politicians. And then people will say, oh, well, you've been getting vaccinations for this long, and don't want to consider that this is a completely different mRNA vaccination that has been released. And not only that, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Thank you, Jupiter Ice, for the super chat. Not only that, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I don't know if y'all know this. You don't have a lot of your mainstream media news sources talking about this, but you have over 3,000 doctors and scientists that have now signed a declaration accusing COVID policy of makers of crimes against humanity. A physician's declaration produced by an international alliance of physicians and medical scientists. Will we call these people anti-science? Will we call these people anti-science? They have strongly condemned the global strategy to treat COVID, accusing policymakers of potential crimes against humanity for preventing physicians from providing life-saving treatments for their patients and suppressing open scientific discussion. Suppressing open scientific discussion. You've had doctors outright like disrespected, ostracized, okay, made to be afraid to speak for in fear of losing their jobs. A lot of these people, especially the younger doctors, you're looking at people that have like a lot of student loan debt usually. People don't just want to wake up and lose their job of being a doctor. I just highly doubt that, okay? The document states that one-size-fits-all treatment recommendations have resulted in needless illness and death. As of one Friday afternoon, the declaration had garnered over 3,100 signatures from doctors and scientists around the world. A group of physicians and scientists met in Rome, Italy earlier this month for a 3-day global COVID summit to speak truth to power about COVID pandemic research and treatment. The summit, which was held from September 12th to September 14th, gave the medical professionals an opportunity to compare studies like science is actually supposed to do, okay? Comparison and analysis, and assess the efficacy of the various treatments that have been developed in hospitals, doctors' offices, and research labs throughout the world. The document, reprinted below in its entirety, sprang from a physicians' conference in Puerto Rico. The physicians' declaration was first read at the Rome COVID Summit, catalyzing an explosion of active support for medical science and physicians around the globe. These professionals were not expecting career threats, character assassination, papers and research censored. Okay, I told y'all we don't support censorship over here. Social accounts blocked. It's a private company. It's a private business. They can do what they want. Now, all the people that said that, now they playing with the algorithms of the fact that the same people that supported that, and when I said this is not cool to do, you should not support this because of the quote-unquote person you don't like, because now you turn around, you have this happening to actual physicians. You have this happening to people that are talking about how the George Floyd bill has collapsed in Congress. Obviously, the algorithms are much different from last year when they were boosting all of these stories that were helping increase and highlight the racial tensions. Now, them disappeared. It's just a different world around here, obviously. Build back better. Papers and research censored, socials accounts blocked, search results manipulated, clinical trials and patient observations banned. Now y'all about to see why I talk about consistency, forward thinking, and knowing your standards. So you supported who or who is not. It doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter the topic or the subject that we're talking about, because what happens is they're always going to introduce the BS with the boogeyman. Every single time. It's always for your safety. It always starts out like that. It's always to protect you. It's always cute and fluffy. Okay? Until they're censoring and banning somebody that you need information from or you like, or now the tables have turned. Okay? What you make room for will enter and flourish. That's just how simple it is. And I spoke out about this when they started the foolishness, because I seen them trying to dip their toe when it was like the 7 notable people that were banned from social media, including like Alex Jones and Louis Farrakhan. And I, in some ways, felt like they just randomly threw Louis Farrakhan in there because I guess they were just trying to make it equitable. I don't know. Uh, you know, but those Milo, somebody else, can't think of the last name, you know. But at that time, and I'm like, I don't. Something's about this not right, and I can't support this, right? And now we have scientists and doctors, the same things happening to them. So who knows? These people are so crafty and so manipulative. That could have been a whole play to warm us up to the whole censorship thing and being okay with it. Uh Patient observations banned and their professional history and accomplishments altered or omitted in academic and mainstream media. Dr. Robert Malone, architect of the mRNA vaccine platform, read the Rome Declaration at the summit. So here you have Dr. Robert Malone, who was uh, absolutely hands-on. And he just talks about this a little bit. This video alone has 70,000 views. These videos are currently being censored on YouTube as we speak. It's no way you telling me this video has 70,000 views on this website and it has like 8 on YouTube. It's so obvious and blatant, okay? But Robert Malone, who had an actual hand, and I'm gonna drop this below. He's kind of just briefly talking about, the declaration, how they already have X amount of doctors and they want more people to support and talk about this. And I think this is a declaration that I think they're gonna, I don't know if it's like the United Nations or the WHO. I can't quite remember. I think it's going to be the WHO for doing these crimes against humanity and stuff like that. But Robert Malone had a huge hand in mRNA, in the study of mRNA. That's very important, something to talk about, and something to think about. But this is what's happening. And this is why I can never support censorship. And what I used to always say is, it's coming, it's just not your turn. Every single agenda that we've seen pushed has gone the opposite way at some point. And that's why I don't care who you support. If you don't actually believe in what you're talking about at that moment, is going to be used against you. It's going to be used against your team. It's going to be used against your guy. And people have to accept that. The real Aaron Collins said, "Hey, Rhonda, looking beautiful queen. These evil elites are doing everything they can to take our rights. That's why they're forcing the jab." Thank you, Aaron. You know, what I mean, it has been censorship. It has been, the Me Too movement and Believe All Women. It has been cancel culture. All of that you thought you were doing against that guy is coming for you and yours. We've seen it. We've seen it right in front of our eyes. And it's unfortunate what we see happening now with the censorship getting worse. This is something that Trump talked about a lot during his administration. And I was very adamant about, I want to see more before he leaves office. very adamant about we need to see more as it relates to censorship before he leaves office. We didn't see that happen in, any tangible way. That's why we see, including Trump, that was banned from these platforms. But that's why we see a lot of what we're seeing now. It's unfortunate and it's going to get worse. The big tech agencies and the big corporations are picking the winners and the losers. And a lot of times the losers are your working class, everyday people. While the politicians get to fund their pockets, they get to ride into these prestigious careers on the back of dead people. And then they just go off the radar and go completely silent. They do not have to address the lies. They do not have to address the manipulation head on. And so even for me, as much as I, talk about this stuff and as much as we went over and discussed, I'm still sometimes absolutely mind blown. I'm still sometimes when you have certain, now I have to call these people bad faith actors, because when you can't even pretend, to hold this administration accountable, it's like, wow, man. It's like, wow, like, but you can't because if you did and you held that same standard, then you will probably actually have the people take it and run with it. But you don't want that. You don't want that. You want things just swept under the rug. You just want people sleep. You just want people not really paying attention because that works in your favor. And it's sad. It's sad. It's sad that so many people like that get the spotlight, get the accolades, get the accolades as if they're the one doing the work and this and that, and they're for the people. And the whole time you picking and choosing. The whole time you picking and choosing when you want to be real, when you want to be truthful, when you want to be forthcoming, when you want to be objective, when you want to be down, when you want to hold people accountable. Ain't no picking and choosing. It either is or it ain't. You either for freedom or you not. You either for freedom of speech, you either for freedom of bodily autonomy, you know what I'm saying, or you're not. Like, it's not a hard concept. It's not a talk around, a work around. It depends on the time. It depends on the day. Oh, well, let me deep dive into explaining this to you because I kind of am, but I'm kind of not. But hey. But all right, y'all. So let's see. Let's see what happens. Let's see if New York ends up employing deploying the military personnel and filling them with these jobs. Let's see what type of hesitation or even resistance that the actual New Yorkers give. If you are in New York or if you see videos of protesting and things like that, please send me those. And just because there have already been protests going on, as it relates to the vaccination mandates, okay, those are already happening in New York. So don't think, and they're happening all across the world. And I'm actually going to be putting a compilation video of that together soon. But just because it's not blasted all over your mainstream media, don't think it's not happening. Just because you don't hear people screaming it all out loud, Don't think people aren't thinking it. Okay. There's a very silent thing happening here. And I don't know if that's because people are purposely being silent or if they're being censored. It can be a little bit of both, right? But there's something definitely happening here in your mainstream media. You know, they're pickers and choosers. They're going to pick and choose, you know, what they want to talk about when they want to be down and all this. But all right, y'all. So that is it for tonight. We're gonna keep our eye on New York and see what's going on with that. As far as the George Floyd Act, of course, they kind of left the door open. That could just be for, oh, we just telling the people this. Cory Booker was like, he over it, he out, he don't care anymore. But maybe Joe Biden characterized it as maybe there will be workarounds, other things that you would have people work on. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think from what I can tell and the way people are responding or the lack of response to this story, I think people have moved on. I don't really think many people care. I just don't think people care. And if you think I'm lying, have you seen the news coverage to suggest that people care? No, you have not. So, I mean, it is what it is. So we'll see what happens with that. I will keep y'all posted. Thank you for everybody that tuned in tonight. Thank you for all of these super chats. Thank you so much for everyone that always supports my content. Thank you to my patrons and VIP patrons. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. I myself have been dealing with censorship, as some of y'all I know y'all have seen. Okay, is pretty quite obvious. I myself have been dealing with censorship, so make sure, please share, like, thumbs up, all that good stuff. And thank y'all for always supporting me, and we will be talking soon. Bye.